Welcome back to Kelly's Corner. I hope everybody has had a great start to your week. It's Tuesday evening. It's a beautiful Tuesday evening here in Alabama. I'm actually sitting in my backyard on my swing as I talk to you this evening. We've had several days full of rain, and it's good to be able to get outside for a few minutes. At least as long as my allergies will allow me to. I hope everyone's week has started off well. Mine's been kind of busy with work, and then today I took the day off work to attend my nephew Cooper's kindergarten graduation. I don't exactly understand the kindergarten graduation at the beginning of May. I always thought once you graduated, you were done. But the way his school does it, he graduates today, May the 6th, and then he has to go through like May the 16th or something. So I guess I don't get why you have to go back. You know, once you graduate, to me, that's the end. Or the end and then starting of first grade. And from what his mom was telling me, he thought he started first grade tomorrow. He apparently doesn't understand the concept either of still having a few more days in kindergarten. But I am very proud of him and all his accomplishments, and was very excited to be able to celebrate his graduating of kindergarten with him and our family today. I got to take my grandparents, and then I got to spend a little bit of time with them this afternoon. We went to eat afterward with my parents, and then my grandparents and my aunt. We all went to eat, and then after that, my dad sat with my grandfather, and I took my grandmother to run some errands in town that she needed to get done, and so I got to spend some good quality time with them, and I always enjoy that. But one of the real reasons that I wanted to jump on today, today's a big day, not only for Cooper, and don't want to take away from his kindergarten graduation, but May 6th is a special day for me, personally, in my life. I don't know that I've mentioned it before, but I've had 2 different brain surgeries in my life. I was born with a condition called hydrocephalus, and that's, if you're not familiar with it, and most people probably aren't, that's where fluid builds up on your brain and needs a little bit of help draining off because it doesn't drain properly like most people's, and mine doesn't. And so I have what's called a shunt, which is nothing more than basically a little piece of plastic that pumps the fluid from your head down your neck into your stomach. And I had the first one placed as a baby, and then it worked just fine until I was 6. And then on May the 6th of 1992, I had to have a second one placed. So 33 years ago today, I had my second of 2 life-saving brain surgeries, without which I would not be here. There would not be a Kelly's Corner. Kelly would be in heaven. I guess Kelly's Corner would be on the corner of heaven somewhere. But thankfully, medical science allowed for there to be some sort of treatment option for that condition. And I think back on May the 6th of 1992 a good bit, obviously, because, without that day, without that operation, I wouldn't be here. But, most people probably remember the traumatic things of surgeries and things like that. And I mean, even as a small child, I remember very well. I didn't understand what was going on, what was happening to me, and why. But I remember, like I have very good memories of, very detailed and vivid memories of that time. I have no recollection of my first surgery when I was a baby, none whatsoever. But I do remember that surgery when I was 6. And I don't, most people probably remember the trauma. And I do remember some traumatic things about it. But I remember the random off-the-wall stuff that most people wouldn't remember. And, the stuff that you tell people that you remember about something and they look at you like, why? Why do you remember that? But I do. Things like the night before my surgery, I remember that my grandparents came to visit at the hospital, and they just had one visitor sticker. And so my grandfather got the visitor sticker first, and what they were going to do was my grandfather was going to come up and see me for a while, and then he would go down and let my grandmother come up and visit, and they had brought me a Happy Meal. And he came up, and the nurse needed to take some blood. And again, very random that I remember this, but the nurse needed to take some blood. And so she said that if she let me take the blood, that she would let me, as the patient, go down to the waiting room, the visitor waiting area, and visit with both of my grandparents and eat my supper, my Happy Meal. And so I did. And I remember, just as clear as can be, sitting in my pop's lap there in the hospital room, getting stuck with the needle. And, being 6 years old, I screamed and, whatever. But after having the blood drawn, true to her word, she let me go down. And I remember going to the waiting room and getting to eat my cheeseburger, Happy Meal, sitting there with both my grandparents and my parents. And I remember that. The next morning, I remember, getting ready for surgery, and, all of my family's there, at least the adults. I don't remember my younger brother being there. I don't think he was allowed to come to the hospital because he was too young, but I remember, all kind of adults being there, and relatives and things, and because it is, it is a a major surgery. It's especially for, a little kid. And I remember they gave me this red liquid medicine, and I don't know what it was for, but they gave it to me in this syringe, and they shot it in my mouth, and I took it, and it made me sick. And I remember getting sick all over my dad. Again, why I remember that, I don't know, but I do. I don't remember being 6, being in a hospital, you'd think you'd be scared. But I don't ever remember being scared. And thinking back on it, the conclusion that I've come up with to remember as to why I don't remember being scared is probably because I didn't realize how serious what was happening to me really was. And I don't know that I fully grasped the fact that you're about to have your head cut open. I don't know that I really understood that I was about to have any kind of surgery, or even if I did know I was going to have a surgery, what a surgery was. And so I don't remember ever being scared, which is, a blessing, especially for a kid. But I remember getting back to the operating room, and, you go in an operating room and there's, huge lights. And I remember being moved from one table to the next, where the actual surgery was going to take place, and looking up at this huge light in Children's Hospital of Alabama, at least back in 1992. I don't know what's there now, but at least in this particular operating room back in 1992, I looked up at this huge light, and again, why I remember this, I don't know. But at the very tip of the huge light was a sticker of Kermit the Frog. And I can see it just as clearly today as it happened today instead of 33 years ago. There was Kermit the Frog. And nothing will ever convince me that wasn't the case, because that's what I remember. And I remember it just like it happened. Just like it happened yesterday. Not so long ago. And it's kind of mind-boggling to think that it was 33 years ago, because it doesn't seem like it's been so long. And then I remember, having the surgery, and I remember waking up kind of in and out of consciousness in the where you wake up, in the I guess post-op, and I wanted my aunt. I don't remember why I wanted my aunt, but I remember I wanted my aunt. And then, my parents went to get her, and by the time she made it back into there, I had gone back to sleep. Something else I remember, when we left to come home, I wanted to stop at Cracker Barrel. And so, of course, after your kids just had major brain surgery, if they want to stop at Cracker Barrel, you're going to stop at Cracker Barrel. And so I remember on the way home from the hospital, we stopped at Cracker Barrel. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, because I remember it, I had 2 fried eggs, some bacon, and an orange. Again, why I remember these things, I don't know. But I do. Something else I remember, probably one of the most traumatic things I remember about the whole experience, was I was in kindergarten, and it was at the end of the year, but the school year hadn't ended yet. We didn't graduate kindergarten on May the 6th like Cooper. We did actually have to go through, at least mid-May. I don't remember exactly when we got out, but we didn't get out on May the 6th. But something I remember was there toward the end of the year, the school had an animal show. And my mom got permission from the doctor and whoever else that had to get permission for me to attend, so that I wouldn't have to miss it. And I remember walking into the school, and having major brain surgery, they shave your head completely. And I remember walking into the school, and one of my classmates, his name was Rusty, was at the water fountain. And he turned around and saw me, and runs into class right before I get in there, and announces to the class that I was there and I didn't have any hair. Again, that's probably one of the more traumatic things that I remember about it. But thinking back, 33 years, most shunts last maybe 2, 3 to 5 if you're lucky. And mine's kept going. Now, I will say that after 33 years, because of wear and tear in the neck, the tubing system has broken. It is no longer connected. It is, I guess, more or less free-flowing into my abdomen instead of going into the vein that it's connected to, where it recycles back into the body. But it is still pumping, and it's a blessing every day that it does. And I don't know. I may have to have it replaced at some point, but that's not today, Lord willing. And Lord willing, it won't be tomorrow either. But it's every day of the last 33 years that it has continued to flow and to pump and keep me alive has been a blessing. And it's something, I was kind of embarrassed about as a kid, because I have scars on my head from the surgery, and I also, because it does go into my abdomen, I have scars on my stomach as well from the surgery, and that was something that, embarrassed me as a kid, especially as a teenager. But as I've gotten older, it doesn't embarrass me anymore. As I've gotten older, I know, and I've come to realize exactly what God has brought me through, and I'm thankful. And as long as I have breath in my body, I will tell this story as often as I can, if for no other time, every year on this day. There's a Facebook post made about it, because I'm going to sing of the goodness of God, as the song says. I've got a story to tell, and I fully believe if God gives you a story, if God gives you a testimony, if God gives you a message, you don't keep it to yourself. You share it with others. And it is my prayer that my story points others to Him, because I know that without Him, I'm nothing. But also, even more so, without Him, I'm not here. And I'm thankful for that. So just a few thoughts on this 33rd anniversary of my shunt. I call it the shunt-iversary, if you will. Let's go for 34, shall we? Anyway, enough rambling, I guess. I hope y'all have a wonderful evening. I'm going to go settle down and get ready for an early morning drive into work. I've spent the evening listening to a live simulcast thing of the Oak Ridge Boys talking about their new CD and their new album and new video for one of the songs that's on their album. And I enjoyed listening to that. And I think some big military plane's about to fly over. So I'm going to get off of here and go inside. But I hope everybody has a great evening. And you stay safe. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.